Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Metzia, pages 67 through 73, Samach Zayin through Ayin Gimel. 67. Hi Mashkanta. If a person is a lender and has as collateral, a pledge, property of the borrower, Ba'atra de Misalki, but it's in an area where if the borrower pays the money right away, he can kick off the lender from his property. Lo neichel el b'nechiata. So the lender is not allowed to eat from the produce of that property unless there is some kind of officially recognized reduction in the price as a way of avoiding a problem of rebit, of illegal usury, of interest. However, Surva Mirabanan, if you're a Torah scholar, even if there's a diminution in the price that is arranged, that's still not a legitimate method of circumventing the rebit problem. Rather, they should find some other mechanism to justify eating from the produce of the field. Now, the Gemara mentions a certain rabbi who, despite being one of the Tzuvim Rabbanon, acted like the commoners. And they wondering, how could this be? How could he violate the rabbinic norms? And the answer is, it was a matter of modesty. He was trying to show, I'm not so learned, I'm not so learned. Samachet, 68. Tana Rabbanon, we learn in a Braita, Maskeret Isha, a woman can rent out lechaverta to her friend, Tarnagola to hen, Bishnei Afrochim, for a fixed number of chicks, the fledglings that'll be born in the course of the year. So the borrower wants the hen to sit on the eggs to keep them warm, to incubate the eggs. However, Isha she'amr lechaverta Tarnagola shti betzim shelach, if the woman tries to make a deal and says, I keep the hen, you get the eggs, but we'll split the chicks that are born. That is of questionable validity, because it may be that it's an iska, a business arrangement, that lacks legitimacy because on the downside, it's entirely one-sided. Rabbi Yehuda allows it, says it's okay. Rabbi Shimon Oser, he says, no, this is an illegal form of business enterprise. Samachtet, 69. Shamin para v'chamor, we can assess the cow and the donkey, v'chol davar shu oseh v'ochel, any other animal that eats and works. Lemechetza. So if you give it over to a herdsman to use this animal, the profits can be split in half. Now, even though typically the managing partner of an iska, of a business, has to be compensated for his active role in the business relationship, otherwise it becomes an interest payment to the non-active partner. In this case, because the animal is oseh, it works, in addition to being an ochel, eating, the working that the animal can do, which is done specifically for the managing partner, is enough to avoid a problem of rebit, of interest. Ayin, 70. Lovin min ha'akum, umalvin otam beribit. We can lend, we can borrow to a non-Jew with interest. That the laws of prohibition of interest, of rebit, are Jew-on-Jew laws. V'chein beger toshav, and similarly, you're allowed to lend and borrow from a resident alien who is a friend of the Jewish people but is not himself a Jew. Malva Yisrael ma'otav shalakum midat ha'akum v'lo midat Yisrael. So a Jew can pass along the monies that was a loan given to him. He can pass it along to another Gentile, but he can't pass along the monies to another Jew, which would then result in a Jew lending money to a Jew with interest. Now, it's interesting that in the Christian world, lending with interest became a very serious sin. And as a result of that, the economy needed the Jew to function because the Jew was able to lend to the Christian with interest, something the Christian couldn't do for himself. As a result of that, Jews got a bad reputation as usurers, as money lenders. Now, this was done because it was profitable, but also because the Jews were not really allowed to engage in other occupations. They were forbidden to own land and be farmers, often forbidden to engage in handicraft. So the lending of money was one of the few occupations that a Jew could do lawfully in the medieval world. And it's all sort of an accident that within the church, they chose to impose upon themselves one biblical law that, according to our tradition, is only for a Jew against a fellow Jew. Ayin Aleph, 71. Kol mi sheyesh lo ma'ot. anyone who has money, umalveotam shelo beribit, and lends it out without interest, meaning does the mitzvah, does the good deed of interest-free loans. Alava katuv omer, regarding that person, the Bible says, Kaspolonatan beneshech, he did not lend out his cash with the interest, v'shochan l'kilakach, and he didn't take a bribe against an innocent. If a person behaves in this fashion, they will not falter, they will not falter. Halamarata, but we learn from here by implication that if you lend with interest, your assets will falter, you'll suffer a financial setback. Ayin bet. 72. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Nachri she'lava mos miyasoberabis, if a non-Jew borrowed money from a Jew at interest, bein kach, whether there was a refinancing, a fixing of the principal to include both the principal and the accrued interest or not, gove et hakeren v'gove et haribit. Well, we allow the collection of both the principal and the interest, even if the non-Jew converts to Judaism. Why? Why should we allow a situation where a Jew is paying a fellow Jew interest? The answer is, my tama, we don't want it to be said about a person that he converted to Judaism just to save a few dollars of not having to pay interest to a fellow Jew. So that would be a disgraceful situation, and it would also cast aspersions on a change of religious status, which we don't want to see. Therefore, make the payment. Ayin Gimel. Tanya. Ra'ita she'eno noah kashura. If you see a person, even a Jew, who's acting inappropriately and in a disreputable fashion, how do you know that you could coerce him into some kind of service? Talmud lomar lolam behem tavodu. It says in the verse, "They shall work for you forever," which in fact is referring to the Eved Kanani. However, the next word says uve achechem, and your brethren. So if you move the comma for homiletic purposes, for exegetical purposes here, to include after the achechem, there are occasions when even your fellow Jew can be put into shiabud, into servitude, if he's acting inappropriately. However, you might have thought even if he behaves properly, you could do this. Talmud Lomar, no, you can't do that. When he behaves like a brother, B'nai Yisrael, you cannot put him into avodas parach, crushing labor. So this is a warning that if you act out of turn, something bad might happen to you. But if you act properly, the community has to treat you with respect. Everyone have a great week.